Japan doesn't just get the big things right, it gets the tiny things right too. And those are the details that quietly make daily life better in ways you don't register until they're gone. A rice paddle with a surface that rice genuinely doesn't stick to. A separate sponge for every kitchen surface so nothing ever touches something it shouldn't. And a dispenser that feeds plastic bags out one at a time rather than producing an exploding tangle every time you open the drawer. These aren't major innovations. They're small details Japan simply refuses to leave unaddressed. Today we're counting down 15 tiny things every Japanese home gets right. Watch until the end, because number 15 is something Japan made standard on every single toilet seat decades ago that most Western countries still charge extra for as an upgrade. Number 1, the non-stick rice paddle. Rice sticking to the serving paddle is one of those minor kitchen frustrations that happens without fail. You scoop the rice, half of it clings to the flat surface, and you end up pressing and scraping it off in a way that breaks the grains. Japan's rice paddle, called a shimoji, has a surface covered in small raised bumps that prevent cooked rice from making full contact with the paddle. The contact points are minimal, so the rice can't grip the surface and releases cleanly in a single motion without any additional force needed. The difference is immediate. You scoop, you transfer, and the rice comes off completely on the first pass. No clumping against the paddle, no broken grains from excessive pressing, and no leftover rice stuck to the surface that needs scraping into the bowl. Japan improved the rice paddle by changing its surface. Most Western kitchens are still using the flat version. Number 2, cooking oil solidifying powder. Used cooking oil is awkward to get rid of. You can't pour it down the drain without risking pipe damage, and you can't throw it in the bin as a liquid. Most people end up leaving it in the pan or decanting it into a container to deal with at some point. Japan has a specific powder that you stir directly into the warm used oil after frying. The powder bonds with the oil and solidifies it into a firm block within minutes. Once it sets, you lift the entire thing out, wrap it in newspaper, and drop it straight into the regular household bin. The whole process takes roughly the same amount of time as wiping down the stove. No hot liquid to transport, no old tin to fill and store until collection day, and no waiting for the oil to cool enough to handle safely. Japan turned a genuinely messy kitchen problem into a 2-minute task. Number 3, indoor laundry deodorizing spray. Laundry dried indoors consistently develops a damp, musty smell regardless of how clean the wash was. When clothes dry slowly in enclosed spaces without airflow, bacteria activate during the extended drying process and produce an odor that transfers directly to the fabric. Japan developed a specific antibacterial spray applied to laundry before it goes on the drying rack. The spray prevents the bacteria responsible for the smell from activating during the slow indoor drying process. It's designed specifically for indoor drying conditions rather than as a general fabric freshener. The clothes come off the rack smelling like clean laundry rather than the flat, slightly sour smell that indoor drying normally produces. It works regardless of the room, the airflow, or how long the drying takes, because the bacteria causing the problem have already been addressed before drying even starts. Japan identified the specific cause, built a product around it, and solved it. If you're enjoying this so far, go ahead and tap like. It tells YouTube you want more of Japan's clever, everyday innovations. And if you love discovering things you didn't even know existed, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this list. Trust me, the next ones are even smarter. Number 4, the plastic bag dispenser. Most kitchen drawers with plastic bags in them turn into a tangle every time you open them. The bags compress together, not around each other, and extracting one without pulling out several more is almost impossible. Japan uses a specific wall-mounted or drawer-based dispenser box that holds plastic bags folded inside it and releases them one at a time through a small opening at the base. The bags load in from the top, sit stacked in an organized column, and feed out individually with a single pull. Opening the drawer or reaching for the dispenser produces exactly one bag rather than an immediate mess. The remaining bags stay organized inside the box until they are needed. The drawer closes cleanly. The bags are always findable, and the entire frustration of the tangled bag drawer simply stops being part of the kitchen experience. Japan built a dedicated housing for plastic bags. Most Western kitchens are still stuffing them into a drawer. Number 5, the home label maker. Most home storage systems eventually break down because nobody can remember what goes where. Unlabeled containers get filled with the wrong things, items end up on the wrong shelf, and the organization collapses without a clear system everyone can follow. Japan treats the P-Touch style label maker as a standard household tool. Printed adhesive labels go on containers, drawer fronts, cabinet shelves, and storage boxes throughout the home, creating a clear visual system that communicates what goes where regardless of who's putting it away. Everything has a named place rather than an assumed one. The home stays organized because the system doesn't rely on memory or habit. Anyone putting something away can see exactly where it belongs. Containers are opened knowing what's inside. The label removes the guesswork that causes organization systems to drift and eventually fail. Japan treats labeling the home as basic maintenance. Most Western homes never get that far. Number 6. Kitchen sponge color coding. Most Western kitchens use one sponge for everything. The same one that cleaned the dishes wipes the counter, the sink, and the stovetop. There's no separation between surfaces and no system preventing bacteria from transferring between them. Japan assigns a different colored sponge to each surface in the kitchen. One color for dishes, one for the sink, one for the stovetop. The color makes the system visual and immediate, so there's no guessing, no remembering, and no room for cross-contamination even when multiple people are using the kitchen. The dishes get cleaned with a sponge that has only ever touched dishes. The sink gets cleaned with one that has never been near food. The system holds itself together without effort, because the color tells you what to reach for before you've even thought about it. Japan solved kitchen hygiene by making the separation impossible to get wrong. Number 7. The Japanese bath scrubbing towel. A loofah stays damp for hours after every shower. A surface that stays damp develops bacteria, and within days of regular use, most loofahs are hosting significantly more than they're removing. Western bathrooms accept this as normal. Japan uses a long nylon mesh scrubbing towel that creates a richer lather than a loofah, exfoliates effectively, and dries completely within an hour of use. The nylon doesn't retain moisture the way a loofah does, which means the bacterial growth cycle that makes loofahs smell and become unhygienic simply doesn't get started. The towel is dry before the next person showers. It produces more lather than a standard washcloth, cleans more effectively, lasts months without degrading, and never develops the smell most people accept as a normal part of loofah ownership. The bathroom feels cleaner because the tools used in it actually are. Japan replaced the loofah with something that stays genuinely clean between uses. Number 8. The deep cleaning brush set. Standard cleaning tools miss the same spots every single time. The grout lines between tiles, the base where the faucet meets the sink, the channel around a drain. These areas accumulate grime precisely because nothing standard can reach them. Japan uses deep cleaning brush sets with multiple small brushes in different widths and stiffnesses, each designed for a specific hard-to-reach spot. There are brushes shaped for grout lines, brushes thin enough to clean around faucet bases, angled ones for drain channels, and narrow ones for appliance seams. Standard product at every Japanese home store. The spots that every cleaning session has always missed start getting cleaned. Grime doesn't accumulate in the places standard tools can't reach, because now there are tools that can. The bathroom and kitchen look genuinely clean rather than mostly clean, with the same grimy details in the same corners every week. Japan built tools specifically for the gaps standard cleaning ignores. Number 9. Freezer organization trays. The freezer is the hardest space in the kitchen to keep organized. Frozen bags collapse, containers tip over, and everything ends up piled on top of everything else, until finding a specific item means emptying the whole thing. Japan uses shallow, upright trays and dividers specifically designed for the freezer that allow frozen bags and flat containers to stand vertically in rows, rather than lying flat in piles. The trays hold items in sections by category, standing upright like books on a shelf, with everything visible from above when the drawer or door opens. Every item is visible and reachable without moving anything else out of the way. Older items naturally stay at the front of each section and get used first. Nothing gets buried. Nothing expires unnoticed, and the freezer takes the same few seconds to navigate as any other organized storage space in the kitchen. Japan organized the freezer the same way it organizes everything else. Number 10. The quick dry hand towel. A hand towel used by multiple people throughout the week dries slowly between each use and accumulates bacteria from repeated handling. By midweek, the towel hanging beside the sink is a long way from genuinely clean. Japan uses small, quick-dry cotton hand towels that dry completely within an hour of use and are laundered far more frequently than a standard bath towel. The small size means they cycle through the wash regularly, and the quick-dry material means they're never sitting damp between uses waiting for the next person to touch them. Hands dried on a freshly cleaned towel are actually clean after drying, rather than picking up whatever the towel has collected since its last wash. The frequent replacement cycle keeps the difference invisible because there's never a stage where the towel has been hanging long enough to become a problem. Japan made hand drying a hygienic step rather than just a habitual one. Number 11. The ventilated sponge holder. Kitchen sponges start to smell quickly because most holders keep them sitting in their own moisture. The sponge drains onto the holder surface, water pools underneath, and the sponge spends most of its time damp rather than drying out. Japan uses sponge holders specifically designed to suspend the sponge in a raised or open position where air can circulate around all of its surfaces. The water drains away completely rather than pooling underneath, and the sponge is exposed to airflow on every side rather than pressed against a surface on one. The sponge dries significantly faster between uses, which dramatically slows the development of the bacteria and smell that make sponges unpleasant. It lasts noticeably longer before needing to be replaced, never develops that sour smell within the first few days, and the kitchen feels noticeably cleaner as a result. Japan fixed the sponge smell problem by fixing how the sponge is stored. Number 12. Cabinet and drawer liners. The base of most kitchen cabinets is permanently stained from years of items placed directly on it. Moisture, oil residue, and spills absorb into the surface and stay there because properly. Cleaning a cabinet interior means removing everything and scrubbing the base. Japan lines cabinets and drawers with specific paper or wipe-clean plastic liners before anything goes in. The liner sits between the surface and everything stored on top, absorbing any moisture or residue that would otherwise permanently mark the cabinet base. When the liner needs replacing, it peels out in seconds and a fresh one goes in. The actual cabinet surface stays completely untouched, regardless of what's stored on it or for how long. Spills that would permanently mark a bare surface are stopped by the liner. Cleaning the inside of a cabinet stops being a dedicated task and becomes swapping one sheet for another. Japan protects the surfaces most homes accept will gradually deteriorate. Number 13. The kitchen counter spray bottle. Small kitchen messes don't get cleaned immediately because the cleaning product isn't immediately at hand. By the time someone retrieves the spray from under the sink, the moment has passed and the mess is still there. Japan keeps a small spray bottle pre-filled with diluted cleaning solution permanently on the counter, always within reach. The moment a splatter or drip appears, the spray is already there. There's no decision about whether the mess warrants getting the product out. Oil on the stovetop gets wiped before it bakes on. A drip beside the sink gets addressed before it dries. Surfaces stay consistently clean throughout the day, rather than accumulating small messes that compound into a larger cleanup by evening. The effort of keeping the kitchen clean drops significantly because nothing is left long enough to require serious work. Japan solved the response time problem by removing the gap between seeing the mess and cleaning it. Number 14. Leftover rice storage containers. Cooked rice stored in a standard container overnight loses its moisture and comes out of the fridge dry and clumped. Reheating it rarely recovers the original texture, and the result is noticeably worse than freshly cooked rice. Japan uses specific airtight containers designed exclusively for storing cooked rice in the fridge or freezer, built to maintain the correct moisture balance during storage. The seal and material are engineered around the specific way cooked rice behaves when cooled, preventing the moisture loss that causes the texture to change. From brands including Arnest and Zojirushi, rice stored in these containers reheats to a texture that matches freshly cooked rather than the dry, hard version most people accept as an inevitable result of leftovers. Portioned rice frozen during the week reheats properly, making meal prep more practical and eliminating the habit of throwing leftover rice away rather than dealing with the texture. Japan designed a container around what rice specifically needs, not just what fits it. Number 15. The soft, close toilet seat. Every household has heard a toilet seat drop and slam at some point, usually at the worst possible moment. It's a noise so normal that most people have stopped registering it as something that could be different. In Japan, soft, close toilet seats are a manufacturing standard on every model, including the most basic and affordable. The hinge contains a hydraulic mechanism that takes over when the seat is released, lowering it gently and silently under its own controlled weight. In most Western countries, this is a premium upgrade. The seat never slams, it never makes noise at night, it never risks cracking the bowl from the force of dropping. Children and adults both get the same result without needing to be deliberate about how they lower it. The problem is removed rather than managed. Japan made this the standard. The rest of the world made it an option. If you want to see more amazing things Japan is doing better than the rest of the world, then like and subscribe. And make sure to watch the video on your end screen. It's packed with even more tiny things Japan gets right.